The U.S. now has more than 1,000 troops in Iraq. Late yesterday, the Pentagon announced that they would be sending an additional 130 troops into Iraq. This was in the middle of these humanitarian airdrops that are going on for the Iraqis, the Yazidis that we've told you about that are stuck at the top of Mount Sinjar. And the U.S. is contemplating further rescue missions for the civilians that remain there. They still number in the tens of thousands. We have a statement from a defense official. I will read it to you. Quote, "These forces will not be engaged in a combat role. They will work closely with representatives from the U.S. Department of State and USAID to coordinate plans with international partners and non-government organizations committed to helping the Yazidi people." Remember, President Obama pledged no boots on the ground. And sending these forces into Iraq to do such planning work and rescue work, etc., could potentially put them in direct contact with the ISIS Islamic State fighters. So when we think about the definition of no boots on the ground, you can have boots on the ground as long as it's not direct combat. I think, Lewis, is generally the understanding. But if you're doing a rescue mission, you're rescuing people from something or someone, and potentially you could come in contact with that thing.
I would assume so. It seems like anything can happen. Am I going to be upset if that does happen? I'd expect that to happen. And I think it was foolish for Obama to make that promise when clearly things are getting worse and our involvement seems to be more necessary as time goes on.
So as far as the numbers go, before yesterday's announcement about these 130 additional troops, we knew about 800 troops in Iraq. And there were, of course, many more that the military has not publicly acknowledged, but are more or less understood to exist to some degree. So we already assumed the number was over 1,000. Now we're essentially at 1,000 that we specifically know about because the government has told us. And if you add in those others, Lewis, when we talked about the initial 300, I said 300 can become 1,000 pretty quickly. And 1,000 can get to 2,500 not that much later. We've certainly gone about halfway in that direction.
Yep. But it's necessary, unfortunately. I don't like it, but, I would almost feel better if we had more troops there trying to quell this violent uprising.
Yeah, in other words, this is all happening because of what the U.S. did in Iraq. Now it almost would make you feel worse if we said, well, we broke it enough and created this crazy situation, and now we're just going to write off any problems that happen as a result.
It's pretty much our fault. I don't know if it's enough to just continue with airstrikes. We know about the problems with airstrikes. A lot of these fighters are in civilian areas. So maybe troops is the best bet, but I certainly don't like putting them in harm's way.